Hi there, Eimear Burke here. Welcome to the third Fireside Chat, where brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids, where I'm in conversation with a member of the Order. Like I say, ordinary members that are not very well known, but I know since I've joined the Order in 2003, I've met some of the most fascinating people who are not well known, they're not famous, but they have a wonderful story to tell. So I am delighted to be with you this evening. So pull up a chair beside the fire. You can see my fire has been lit. And let me know that you are here. I'm going to introduce my mystery guest this evening, who is, wait till I get her, is all the way from Vienna. And that is Siggy Massenbauer. Welcome, Siggy.
Hello, welcome. Thank you.
I see you have comments now. Hold on a second. I had the wrong thing on. I'm still trying to work out the technology here, so please forgive me. Hello from Wisconsin. Hi, Ellie. Hi, Mari from Monmouthshire, Bristol, Skegness. Wonderful. Let me see. Somebody from California. Wonderful. London. Some from Bavaria. Somebody saying hello, Siggy. Who's that now? Jacqueline Van Velder, you know her? Lovely. Derbyshire, wonderful. Tom Wilkes, John Francis from Glen, something I can't read. Glen Boyd, is that Scotland? Jamie Morgan, hi Jamie from Ohio. And Nakiel, I hope that's pronounced properly, from Utah. Miko from Finland, wonderful. Jackie from Shropshire, wonderful. Hi Kate Plumage. No, this is Siggy from Vienna. Anyway, I remember the first time I met you, Siggy, was 10 years ago, actually, this month.
Wow.
The first Ovate Gorset in Wales. It was hosted by Wendy Shrupshall and Andy Harrop and Mary. I can't remember her surname. And I was very new and very, very shy. And I remember we were sharing a yurt with a few other people. And it was a very special time for me because you had your harp. Well, it wasn't your harp, but you borrowed a harp from somebody. And I remember you taking it out of your harp case and playing it. And I told you that I played the harp when I was 12 for a while. And you said, get back and play your harp. Take it up again. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it might have been a number of years later, I got a harp and I remember contacting you to tell you I had. And then I discovered that Dave the Bard has a similar story with you. Would you like to tell us that?
Yes. The first thing is the harp I had with me when we met was Dave's harp. So that's the advantage of playing the harps and having other friends in different places that play the harp. When you travel there, you can ask them to borrow you. Yeah. So you want me to tell the story with Dave and the harp? Yeah. Simply, like, I just want to say, I've always felt drawn to the harp, and I just feel I love to recognize that people love to play the harp, or like often people tell me, I've been dreaming of playing the harp for a long time, or you said you've played it before. So I just feel there's not enough harmony in the world, and so I'm always happy to know that more people playing the harp and other instruments. But with Dave, we were at one of the summer camps in England, and at the White Horse, and I played the harp, and I said, if anybody would like to try, because I know it's so difficult to actually find a harp to play, then they could come. And the next day Dave came, and I remember he was not well known at the time. I just remember he played the harp, and he played with 8 fingers within the minute. And I just got goosebumps. And I said, in some cases, I tell people they should play, but in your case, you have to. I could really feel there was such strong connection. And I felt the same with you. Like, I felt you had a connection with the harp. Yeah.
And I really appreciate that, because I did. I took it up, and I mean, I'm not great at it. I'm certainly not like you. However, I love it. It's my instrument. So, because I also learned the piano as a child, and it wasn't my instrument. I found it very threatening, and I had to do exams, and it was hell. So now I'm old and I don't have to follow the rules and I play with a very bad technique and I don't care. I just enjoy it myself, which is lovely. And there are really kind people who listen to me and say, that was not, I appreciate that. So, how long are you in the order, or why, or what, I suppose, what brought you to OBOD or to Druidry?
Well, I know from the other times that I would like to tell the story, and that is that I've always been feeling a very strong link with nature. And I always felt that with my normal friends, they didn't share that love. And I remember I was in the countryside in the high mountains in my country during the night, watching the stars and telling the stars, I want to meet the others. I always knew there were others. And but I didn't know a name for it. And then in the end, I just realized I can't find them. So I said, okay, I'm going to a harp festival in Edinburgh. And when I come back, I'm going to join the Buddhists. It's not exactly what I'm looking for, but it's the closest that I can get to what I feel within. And when I went to this harp festival, I chose Fiona Davidson, the Bardic tradition and the harp. And there was, well, first I was fascinated with her storytelling and everything. And I met another Austrian and we talked about religions. And she said, the way you're talking is not Buddhism, it's Druidism. And she gave me a leaflet of OBOD. She gave me the link. I believe in coincidences. When I came back to Vienna, another friend who knew nothing about that gave me a book of Philip and said, I think this is for you. So I thought, that's a bit too much of a coincidence, you know?
Oh, that's absolutely wonderful. So in that search for something, what would you say was your first spiritual experience? Or did you have a supernatural experience or experience of divine or the other world at a younger age?
You mean like even before I joined or after?
Yeah. No, before.
To me, well, there's a tree that I love especially. That's the linden tree. And there was a huge linden tree in front of where I lived. And I was like a young teenager. And I really felt whenever I came home from school, it was singing to me. And I felt such a close connection to it. And it was just really, I don't know, just really a strong connection. And one day they cut down the tree and I heard saws. And when I saw what they did, I just fell on the floor and I felt so bonded. And I don't know, afterwards, I realized how much I loved the trees and what connection I had. But then years later, I sat under another linden tree playing my harp. And suddenly I remembered my linden tree and I realized my trees is in it as well. So just the connection of feeling trees and feeling them communicating with me, that was something that I loved especially. And the linden tree was the first to teach me that.
Wonderful.
She was my first teacher.
Beautiful. So then, since joining the order, because you asked, was I asking you about before you joined the order?
Yeah.
Or after? Have you had interesting experiences since you joined?
Lots. But the one that came right after, like, that's why I asked, I've always loved nature, but I would never ever have gone into the woods at nighttime by myself. And I remember I went to the first summer camp. So I think I've been in the order for about 26 years or so, 25, 26 years. I remember we went for a walk and there was a clearing. And Ivan, I don't know if, Ivan, he was the one who said, and now everybody goes into the woods. And I thought to myself, I'm not going. But my inner voice, which I listened very strongly to, said, you're going. And I thought, no, I'm not. Yes, you're going. So I just started to walk. And that to me was a most magical experience because before I had really been afraid, but suddenly I was walking through the woods. I knew the way completely. Nothing, like I could feel branches, but they didn't touch me. And there was a little bit of moonshine, so I did see something. I came to a clearing, and there was a circle of trees, and I just really, really felt them welcoming me. And when I went there, I just, one was especially calling to me, and I just really felt I was given the freedom of the forest to forget the fear that I've always had, you know? And that was really the beginning of me being free to roam through the woods day and night whenever I wanted.
That's lovely. For me, so what you are now is a nemophilist. A nemophilist is somebody who loves walking in the woods and
Okay.
has a name. Okay. And I do love that. I find that so, I'm never afraid in the woods. It's like the trees are my allies, my supporters.
Yeah.
I go for healing. So I just so get the magic of that. So I know you live in a city, you live in an absolutely beautiful city. I don't like living in cities. I love living in the country too. But I remember having visited you 2.5 years ago, think like that.
Yes, I think so.
If I had to live in a city, you know what? It would be Vienna. And it's just an absolutely amazing, and that's a city, but not but. And I remember we went out towards to see the Vienna woods, which was really, really cold. And you remember, what part of your landscape speaks to you? Is it like a park within the city, or your balcony, or do you have a place outside Vienna that speaks to you? Good.
You know that I'm a tour guide, so I will say something very tour guide like. 50% of Vienna are green, and it takes me about 25 to 30 minutes to be in the woods. And in these woods, there is a well, which is my well, where I love to go like in the morning and like at dawn, really, or just play the harp there. That's where I really feel I belong. And I often ask my friends, if you would not be human, what would you like to be? And the answer that I have for myself, I would love to be a guardian of a well. So I feel really at home at the well. Yeah.
Just wait a few years, or maybe a good many years, then you could be the hag at the well, and that'll be absolutely wonderful. I want to comment on Siggy's laugh. To me, it's an opera singer's laugh, and I'm glad you've shown it. So, and I know that you're a tour guide, or you were pre-COVID a tour guide. And I was so impressed that you showed me 4 days worth of Vienna in 2 days. And you actually picked the best for me, obviously knowing what it was I needed, and it was just superb. But there's more from our conversation. There's more to your tour guiding than just being a tour guide, and it's how you use your druidry in that. And I'd love you to share that with people, because I think it's absolutely fascinating.
So when I shifted from being a bard to the OBOD, the one thing that I did was making making candles, and I was continuing making these candles in the OBOD, and then I suddenly realized I've always had a very strong connection to history, and especially the Second World War, and somehow this came together. Like, yeah, I'm not sure how I should start. Shall I just say how I came to it?
Absolutely.
Annie, okay. Now, the thing is, when I was 13, I realized how my country was involved in during the Second World War, what role it played. And that's why I studied history. And I had gone to other concentration camps, but I could not go to the one in my own country, Mauthausen. But often I wanted to go, and I often asked myself, can I go? And my inner voice said no. And I remember the day that I said, can I go? And it said yes. And I thought, I am going to go. And as said, I believe in synchronicity and coincidence. On that very day, I was called by a tour office, if I would have the time and would want to go with the survivor of Auschwitz and Mauthausen to the concentration camp. On the very day, I felt within I should go. We stayed in the one hotel that belonged to the husband of a friend, so I could ask him to upgrade the survivor and everything. A friend was working there. I could give him everything. So it was really amazing. And the thing is, I just realized that the place that I had been afraid of going was actually the place that I'd been yearning to go. I feel as an OBOD, there's so much healing in needed in such places. And I really feel this is what I want to do. And having gone there once, I told the survivor, officially I was your guide, but you were mine. And from the moment I had done that, I said to myself, I want to go there more often. And suddenly my friend said, Siggy, I've heard you've guided there. We have a group. Would you guide them? And I feel I'm both. Like I'm a storyteller as well. On the way, I tell the story. And because I was guiding Felix, the survivor, I could actually really tell the people the way the people were walking, like on the death marches. And I don't have to say, let's do this in silence. People do that. And I feel the place and the people need healing in such a place. So I always have a candle for each of the people. But I also make my own candles there. There's so many, I know all of these places, so many memorials. So I usually go with different candles and light them. And if it's too much, there's a huge willow tree, and that's why I go for my own, if for just feeling embraced by the energy of this willow. It's really very special, and I'm very thankful for it. I could not do this kind of work if I would not be an OBOD. That's what I feel.
And this willow tree, is that in that camp?
Oh yes, it is at the very beginning.
Too overwhelmed by being there, then you're able to go and renew yourself with that. Beautiful, beautiful.
It just called me. I feel called to it. It really calls me. So, but
Go on.
At first, I thought I would be overwhelmed with what I felt, but I feel more. I am really in that time when I walked there. It said the OBOD travels in time, and at first I thought, nah, how can that be? And I thought, actually, I'm doing that all the time. When I'm guiding there, I really feel I'm telling what they are telling me. So I feel really, really linked. But I feel, I don't know. I just really feel this is my place, and I love to be there because I just know this place needs to have people to speak. I want to be a voice for the for the voices that have been silenced. That's what I feel within.
And of course, that's a real honoring of the ancestors, so that you're speaking. They're speaking to you, and you're speaking on their behalf. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. I remember you, because I've never been to any of the concentration camps, and we didn't have time to go to that.
That
one that happened. But I remember when you were taking me down the street, and you showed me that place on the street with the keys.
Yes.
And I found that just so moving. Would you just talk a little bit about that? And you have a story about somebody who saw her key, wasn't it?
Yes. I mean, that's the thing. Like I'm often guiding, many of my tours are with Jewish people whose family actually came from Vienna. So we're actually retracing their history of their families. And I live in the 9th district, so which is a very small district, and many Jews lived in that district as well. And in one road close to me, one house, like people of one house said, we want to find out the history of the house. And then they said, okay, let's find out the history of the whole street that we're living in. And then they said, we want to make a memorial. And if you look, like, it, but so on the floor, if there's glass, and below there are keys. And on each of the keys is the name of the family of the person that has lived there. Yeah. So both of those who were murdered and those who were safe, like that could leave in time. And I've had more than once a guest who came and said, this is my family's name. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so powerful.
Also, they tell me where their families are buried, and I look for the grave, and I show them the picture, and I put a stone on the grave for them, So there are lots of things, because I feel there's nothing I can do to change the past, but there is something I can do in the present. And an American friend once said, not on my watch. So I feel this is our time, this is our watch, and what happens in this time is what we do and decide to do. And yeah. I hope all of this makes sense.
Somebody says here, Deborah, it's so beautiful that you have a willow tree to embrace you. It is wonderful that you are healing the place and the people. How courageous you are. And I just think that absolutely, I think that is just so true.
Can I tell you one more story about the tree then?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Because I told you that the linden tree is a very special tree for me. I've
Yeah.
always felt that it was something like very heavy backs of like something very heavy on my shoulders because of history. I felt it was really there. And I was in the Czech Republic, and the first thing that I do when I go to a place, I walk the land and I say hello. And I was in real good spirit, and suddenly I started to cry really badly, and I thought, this is not me. And I realized it came from the place. And my Czech friends had said it's just before this. It was the 7th of May. 8th of
Yeah.
May is the end of the Second World War, and I just really felt it had to do with it. And I felt a strong feeling of going into the woods. I walked into the woods. I sat by water. I wanted to go, and suddenly a butterfly went on my knee, and I said, okay, I'm going to wait. And the butterfly flew away. Then I walked on, and there was a path of 2 roads, and I said, so which way shall I go? And a deer came and ran to the left. So I went to the left, and I walked until the end, and there was a big clearing. And in the big clearing, with lots of sunshine, there was a huge linden tree. And I went to the linden tree, and I lied down below the linden tree, and I cried, and I really felt the linden tree was embracing me, and it really burned, but it was so healing. And when I came, it was I think, one of my most special connections. And when I came out of the wood, this was gone. So I love to try to bring healing, but I'm being healed as well. I always say
I think
you say time heals all wounds, but who heals the time? Yeah, that's what I think it is.
that's an interesting one. And I love that idea that, you are the healer and you are the healed as well. There is always
Yeah.
that two-way process, and that how we engage, I suppose, in kind acts or acts of healing that we receive as well. And we need to do that it's never one perfect person offering that. We all need that healing.
Yeah.
Just a message from Susie Horowitz. I am the daughter of a survivor from Vienna. Thank you so much, Siggy, for your work and kindness.
Thank you.
And it's wonderful when and there's this one in German that I can't understand. But anyway, I will just put that up. You can read that.
It's also in English. Somebody asked if the woods in Vienna are different to the ones in Salzburg.
Okay. All right. Do you want to answer that?
I just feel every forest has a different energy. And I can only say from Vienna has a very gentle female energy. And further west, I found it was a bit more male by the closeness to the high mountains. But yeah.
Okay. So I suppose I was going to ask you, when has Druidry supported you? And there's just a beautiful example of going in there and being healed. Are there other times when your Druidry has supported you?
Well, the thing is, when I was in school, I was told that I'm not creative at all. Like I got the worst marks in anything creative, and I had the feeling I cannot do anything creative. And joining the order and realize, like, starting to do creative things, I suddenly said, this is not true. And I remember, I don't know. So just being able to discover that often we are told we cannot do something. And I think Druidry really opens the doors to your own creativity. Yeah. So for all the things, there's so many things I've learned, but to play the harp for me was definitely strongest. I'd started to play the harp just before I joined the order, but I remember I was initiated in England. And after the initiation, I said, now I'm ready to play in front of people. And the day or two after, somebody asked me if I would play. And I said yes. And I thought, gee, they're paying a lot of money for that. So I said, how many people do you expect? Well, about 600. And I had been playing harp for 2 years. So I always felt this really was the end of my bardic initiation. I was very nervous, but being on stage, I was surrounded by a circle of bards. I was back in the initiation. and they were holding a circle around me, and they nodded at me. So yeah, I felt really totally protected, and I felt only like then this was, yeah, I came into the bardic.
Wow, absolutely. I'm just blown away by that. And yes, and I have a wonderful. I've had several of your candles. There's one you gave to me when for the handover, and it's over there on my altar lighting, so I can't bring it over to show people.
Yeah,
But it's amazing the candles that you make, and they're not just works of art. It's the energy, the prayers, or whatever you put into them. Because I remember you giving me to honor Bridget, and I said, "Oh, thank you. I'm going to keep that up, and I'll keep it safe. I'm not going to light that because I don't want to destroy the artwork." And you said,
yeah,
"It's meant to be lit. That's why I make these candles." And it seems kind of strange that you decorate them so beautifully and
yeah,
magically, and then it's like, well, now it's going to be burnt and everything goes a bit wobbly. But that's
yeah,
part of the process, and how you make candles for special events. And
yeah, yeah. Well, I never really thought of, the first thing is it is a family tradition, and as I'm sitting beside my altar, I want to show you 2 candles that my grand aunt made. She's the one that I
oh,
saw as a child, you know.
oh,
She made these kind of
beautiful.
candles, and when I saw them as a child, when I watched her doing it, I said, when I grow up, I want to make candles as well. And I have a Wicca friend, and she came, oh, so that's pure candle magic. And I thought, uh-huh. But Dave came to Vienna, and I love what he said. He said, you are combining the art of the bard with the healing work of the Ovid. And that really is what I feel. I think of a person. I think of the person I do it for, and then I wait for the symbols and the colors that come, you know? And yeah.
Well, whoever said you weren't creative didn't know what they were talking about.
I think all of
So,
us are creative. We just have to open up for it, you know, and not listen to others telling us we're not.
do you have any of your candles that you've made yourself, just close by? I don't mean you have to go rooting.
I
Anything that
have I have my altar here, so all my candles are here, and my altar is dedicated to Bridget, so all the candles are always there. So that's easy. So that's one I made a short while ago.
Oh,
Can you see
wow.
it?
A wild garden. Yeah.
Well, I thought it's like, I don't know. Well, it's for autumn, and I made
Lovely.
another one. I have
There's
to
no
look
floor.
for,
Absolutely brilliant. Wow.
yeah. That's the kind of, yeah.
Just beautiful. Absolutely. So it's interesting, when you talk about honoring the ancestors and all that healing you're doing as part
Mhm.
of your as part of your work as a tour guide. In terms of how do you see your own responsibility as an ancestor yourself?
Can you put it in other ways, in other words?
Well,
How do you mean that?
we look to the past
Okay.
and remember the stories, remember our ancestors,
Mm-hmm.
and so often healing is required, which you're certainly doing as an ovate.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's what do you do in terms of, I suppose, maybe you've already answered it by caring for the ancestors, but
Yeah, yeah.
how do you see your role as being an ancestor for future generations?
I think just to me, I don't consciously think about it. I just feel it's important to be a good person and to try to treat other people as you want to be treated. I don't, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if I can answer because I'm not sure I understand the question.
I think you're being very modest.
Okay.
Because funny, because it is quite a it's a question. It is a challenging question, because
Mm-hmm.
if I say, well, this is what I'm doing, it's like, this grandiose, or what is this? But
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of it is around maybe doing what you do in
Mm-hmm.
the now, in the present,
Yeah.
creates that environment, or
Mm-hmm.
creates the future,
Mm-hmm.
takes care of uh, those coming ahead of us. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's a challenging question, but I wanted to see what you just. But I
Mm-hmm.
think when you think of the history in Vienna, and how ancestors and people in the past have suffered. And the healing that you're doing is like, then you're a healing ancestor of the previous ancestors. And that's a very, in many ways, role model for the generations to come.
I just feel within there is such a need and a yearning for love and for healing. Yeah. And I don't know, I feel a lot of warmth and love for the world. So I just do it in my little part of what I can do in my little surroundings.
And I think you're doing it. And which grade did you prefer, or which did you find most challenging or easiest?
Well, I started as a bard and I could really relate to it as a musician and everything. I said, I'm not ever going to leave. And after 7 years, I'm always waiting for signs. And I got the sign that I should move on. I had finished the grade a long time before the 7 years, but it was at the bardic initiation that a friend said, my inner voice said I should give him the bardic symbol that I had. And he said, I promise when I move on, I'm going to give it to somebody who's just started the path. And I said, okay, I have to go on. And when I came to the OBOD grade, I thought, that is my grade. This is all about healing. This is where I feel really, really at home. And I said, I'm forever going to be in the OBOD grade. And you said it, I think, the first talk. I feel the more I learn, the less I know. And I feel there's still so much to discover in the OBOD. So how could I possibly go on, But then some month ago, I again had something like I saw a picture of history, and suddenly I felt I could not go on the way I was doing. And I asked within, what can I do? What should I do? And within a voice said, find healing songs. So I suddenly first felt it just made me, I want to go to the Druid grade now. But before I thought I would definitely go back to the OBOD, but now I feel I want to go back to the Bardic grade. But doing healing work with, it's like making a combination. So the answer is, I don't know yet what the Druid grade will bring me, but I definitely feel the most connected doing healing work through music. I found more and more music is the healer.
Absolutely. And of course, going through the 3 grades is not a linear path. I mean, it seems like it, but you go back and forth, leave, and that once you go from one grade to another, you haven't abandoned the previous one. That they're
exactly
free. So they're very much like that triskel. I know you combine your OBOD with your work as a tour guide. Is there any other spirituality or spiritual path that you combine with Druidry?
Not really, no, because I mean the thing that I have found is, and I'm sure many others in OBOD have the same. I have often found that I love to go through the woods and just feel like a special connection with the tree, and then I read about the tree and say that's exactly how I felt, So sometimes I feel we already know some things and we are remembering and connecting, but to me, no, I feel really. I have found my path. That's the next thing. I remember reading The Mist of Avalon at the age of 17, and how angry I was that the Christianity was taking over. And I said within, they've taken my religion. I thought, what am I saying? They don't exist, But I don't know. No, it's just nature. Nature is my teacher, and there's not a particular other. I feel very much at home here.
Do you remember, I don't know, was it last year, Philip did some teas with the Druid about, are you a magician or a mystic?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've watched those. So I'm just wondering, are you a magician or are you a mystic?
What is your definition of a mystic?
I suppose somebody who engages with the other world, who...
Definitely mystic then. Not a magician, a mystic. Yeah.
And a magician is someone, for me, it can be I mean, there's so many definitions. I mean, there's no one. And
Mm-hmm.
people tell me I'm just wrong with even my very crude description of a mystic. Is around magic that we experience and magic that we create. And I imagine you are also a magician when you think of the magic that you create with your music.
Well, I don't know. I don't really feel comfortable with the word magic, because to me, I don't know. It's like I create something because I want it. I don't know. For me, magic is when I sleep in the woods and I wake up in the morning and the sun, the orange sun is shining through the trees. You know, that's magic to me. So I don't feel comfortable with like, yeah, I don't know.
Of course, you're assuming that magic is someone who has the wand that goes abracadabra.
Exactly, a little bit like that. Like wanting to change something consciously, not like that.
It's interesting. The Irish word for druidry and magic is the same.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's driocht.
Yeah.
So Siggy creates magic with the candles too. I think you're going to have to face up here and accept that you are a magician and a mystic.
Okay.
That the magic within druidry isn't about creating and summoning and doing spells, but it's around manifesting change, or and also I think being open to the magic that's there. It's everywhere. I mean,
that's what I see. Yes.
And we use the word magical. Ordinary people use to say that was magic. And if you were asked them what they mean, sometimes it's very hard to define it, but it's like, I know it was magic. I can't tell you what it was, but I can feel it.
No, yeah. This kind of magic I absolutely love. And I think it's happening all around us. There is a saying, magic only happens to people who believe in magic, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned reading The Mists of Avalon. Do you read a lot of fantasy?
I love fantasy. And the thing is, I've been thinking, sometimes people say if you read fantasy, then you're like trying to go away from the real world and everything. I think fantasy, on the one hand, it was created by creative people, and it's like peace to me, you know, like working so much with the past and with very gruesome things, with things of death and killing. To me, going into the fantasy kind of world is what I love. You know, it's just my haven, and I especially love the books of Pellinor, for example. It's all about the books of Pellinor. I thought this book, I don't know, Pellinor, because it's all about the bardic schools, and it has nothing to do with the fact. I mean, I love that a stringed instrument might actually save the world. You know, this kind of
beautiful. So who's your favorite fictional character, mage or druid, if you have one?
Well, the kind of Gandalf, you know, the kind of Gandalf version. Yeah. Because I love nothing more than people that have real power and are really the most you know, the most normal people. They don't misuse the power, you know. I like his qualities.
Absolutely. And I mean, I suppose a great role model, and part of druidry is around that ethical stance we hold, power with rather than power over, and it's not about control, and also taking our own responsibility. Lovely. Okay, do you have a special sacred site?
Well, the one that I feel the strongest connected is my well, you know.
Yes.
But I don't have one in particular. I love to find them. Like a short while ago, I went with a friend up to the mountains at at dawn, and to just see the sun rising and like see the sunlight all around the mountains. It was just the most magical. So to me, the places are not the places that are most special to me are not the well-known places, but are the places that you discover by walking the land. Yeah,
I love that, because that's very much my experience too. And often the special sacred sites, for me, a forest can be far more special and sacred than the big megalithic sites. That sometimes I can have a greater connection there. But is there any place you would like to visit that you haven't been to? Assuming that we can
I would definitely one day go to the north of Europe, because I've been to the east and to the west, but I've never been to the north. So places like Sweden and Norway and such places. I've seen pictures and I think, wow, but I've never been. Not the highest up was the north of Poland and Scotland, the top of Scotland, but not further than that. So Sweden and these kind of countries, I would love to go.
Yeah, I'd like to go to Orkney. Howard and I had planned to go to Orkney, and Philip mentioned it on his Tea with the Druid, where Helen and Mark Woodfordine live there, and they've written he read out a beautiful description she had of the light up at Orkney, and I was like, wow, I have to go there. Yeah. But that's one place I'd like to go. But and then the rest is finding those little magic places in our. And it's interesting with the pandemic and where we are, I suppose the travel distance is limited. That it's great to be able to find magical places right here. I've discovered walks for myself. And I was able to monitor the growth during the summer along the path, because it was traffic to walk. Those kind of things, that there's a bit like, interviewing members of the order that aren't known and listening to your fascinating story. And it's the same about visiting fascinating places that nobody knows. And that, I think that's just, it's magical. Do you have a personal practice or a daily practice? Like, do you pray? Do you meditate? Or what do you do?
So the one thing that I always do, like I have a Bridget altar, and whenever I'm at home, I light a candle. It's always lit when I'm at home. That's one. And the second one that I like to do is when I leave home for the first time and the sun shines on me, I say the Druid's prayer and may there be peace in the north, east, south, and west. That's what I would do daily.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay. What would you say your greatest achievement has been?
Well, I've been thinking about that and actually speaking in front of people. I really, because I remember when I studied, I would be shaking with fear, speaking in front of my fellow students about something that I had prepared, But I remember it. To me, the harp is my guide in life. I remember as a student, I applied for a job on a cruise ship. I applied to be the port musician, and they made me the cruise manager. I was responsible for the whole organization, and I was supposed to speak in front of 150 people. And when they asked me, would you do it? And I thought to myself, if I say no, because I've never done it before, I will say no again in 5 years. So I said yes. And then, and that actually made me overcome my fear. And I have a quote on my door which says, always do the things you're afraid of doing. And I've learned that whenever you face your own fears, you're actually growing. And the worst that can be is you say, okay, that's not for me. But that fear should not hold us back.
So I was going to ask you a question, but you may already answer it. What is the most reckless thing you've done?
Most reckless thing.
Yeah.
Well, like several times I volunteered to for voluntary work in Scotland on the different islands, and I was going very close to cliffs, which I shouldn't have done. That's one thing. But for my 50th birthday, I said I want to overcome my fear, and I went on a carousel which goes up like almost 400 feet or like 120 meters. Yeah, something like that. Otherwise, I wasn't really that reckless, I don't think.
Yeah, somebody says here, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
What do you have any regrets?
I don't, because I feel our life is to experience, and sometimes the wrong turns that we took actually shapes as we are today. So I feel I don't regret anything that happened in my life, because I know it shaped me the way I am now, because I have gone through that. Yeah. So I don't regret it, but I always knew whenever I was in a bad situation, there's a light at the other end of the tunnel. I always felt the light.
And I suppose, when we have these, it's great not to have regrets, or that we get an opportunity, if we kind of to remedy that. And it's, I suppose, in many ways, it's better to regret having done something, because you can somehow make amends for having done it, rather than regretting not having done something.
But I think they're also teachers. I think everything that happens to us in life are teachers in one way or the other,
And are meant to happen in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are you most grateful for in your life?
Actually, having met OBOD, because that was the key, truly, because that was the key of really, I felt so many things within, and I really felt through coming to the Druidic path, I realized it's possible. All the dreams that I had within actually came to be. Yeah, so I'm just grateful, because this link to music, to not be afraid of so many things, and to learn to be creative, and also teach others to be creative. And even I like it especially when I teach people to make candles, and people tell me I'm not creative, and then they come 2-3 hours later, they show me their most beautiful candles, so that's what I love. So I'm grateful for all the opportunities.
And I saw that when you came over to Ireland the summer before last to Éigse Spirit Celtic, that Paul Corcoran and Anna Coote, both OBOD members, organised, and you had a candle making workshop. And I remember there were people saying, I'm not creative, I can't do this, I can't do that. And then when we saw the whole collection of candles at the end of the session, how marvelous that was, and how pleased people. It's just magic to see that. So absolutely wonderful. What brings you joy?
Harmony, like for just harmony and music. Like for example, at the moment with COVID and so much fear in the world, I have joined a choir, and I love it, because to just sing harmonies with other people, to me, this is like, it's giving harmony to the web of life, to the web of like the world soul. And I think to just feel harmonies, that's what just blesses me out. That's my most special.
So are you meeting physically, or how do you manage this?
We have first thing is, I choose the choir because it usually is around where I live, really just two roads away. But at the moment, we practice in a huge choir church, where we're like 3-4 meters apart, and every second row is used, and so with lots of spacing.
Oh, wonderful! And I can imagine in that big church, and the acoustics must be absolutely.
It is very beautiful, yeah.
That's lovely. And because most people on music are trying to do it online, and it's very, very hard, because I know when we've had our
different,
try to chant the Imas or the Awen, and everything is just jarring.
Yeah.
To do that physically is just absolutely wonderful. Oh, that sounds incredible. What would you change about your life if you had to change?
I wouldn't change anything because it's changing by itself every day. The one thing I have changed, I've realized it. There are many things I didn't like, and one by one I got rid of them, and I started to fill my life with the things that I love, and that's so beautiful, you know. So I think I wouldn't change anything because I am already changing it, you know. I decide. It's my life. I decide what I want to have in my life, and I think to realize this freedom, we have a lot more freedom that we actually usually give ourselves. I don't know if that, yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We
Would you like
choose.
to go on, elaborate on that? Yes, I think this is really important.
I just feel we are our own master and mistress, and we choose how we want to live our lives. And I think the most important lesson, and at least the one that I have learned in the last 2-3 years, is to just really fill life with the things that you love, that bring you joy, and to realize and question if you're really something is putting you down and you don't feel comfortable with it, then say thank you for having had it and then leave it on the side. Yeah.
I think it's interesting because freedom is within.
Exactly.
There's been a narrative about, we've been controlled by this virus, etc. We've always been controlled, but it's our ability to make changes and to recognize that. And if any of us can recognize that we have a choice.
Yeah.
In this moment, to have a choice, that can be hugely empowering. Like when Howard was dying, we didn't have a choice about the outcome of his cancer, but we chose to live as fully as we could for as long as we could. That's hugely important. So to be able to recognize that we have freedom, but it's in our heads or it's in our how we think and how we feel, regardless of our external circumstances. And I think great gift if you can have that and recognize that you can make change. I think it's so important. I know you wouldn't. You're changing things, but if you had, if you didn't have the career path you have now, and you had to change it, what would you like to do?
The funny thing is, well, I had to change it. I had to change it anyway. So as a tour guide, I suddenly had zero guiding, and I was thinking, what could I do? And I'm now a carer in a shelter for women. And I realized I like it so much that if I would not be a tour guide, I would actually for sure have ended up in a social work area. Yeah.
Wow. Do you, I suppose I'm assuming that this pandemic will end and that we will come out of it. Do you see yourself, maybe this is a fair question, but you can tell me, you don't have to answer it if you don't like.
Okay.
Do you see yourself going back to your tour guiding, or would you stay in the job you're in now?
Well, the thing is, the job that I'm having is it starts again I only got it because of COVID. They added 3 more months, but it's in the winter, and that's the time when I don't have much work as a tour guide. So my dream would be to really work for these 6.5 months in winter and actually definitely continue being a guide, but having the luxury of actually having enough money already from the winter that I don't have to do as much work as I used to. But I've also decided to be more creative because like I'm doing more tours with my harp, or like just adding different like storytelling. I want to do more storytelling in my guiding and such, So yeah, so I would definitely want to go back to tourism, but to be more creative in it. That's my dream.
Oh, absolutely wonderful. It's funny. Each time I ask you a question, it's like you've already done it, or you're on the path. It's who in your life, or is there a person in your life that you admire? Now, it may be life or something.
Definitely. In my guiding, I met one lady that really changed my life, and she's a rabbi. She's a
Okay.
rabbi from New York, and I guided her group for 1 week, and I thought that she's a torch of light, and she's amazing. I felt at the time I met her, my inner light was like a little flicker, but just with her, she thanked me for the work I was doing in a way that I suddenly felt my inner light was aflame again. So it was amazing, and I thought it interesting. She asked me before we went to Mauthausen, how can we make this going there more spiritual? And I thought, she as a rabbi asks me, and I did something then I've never done before. I said, I'm actually a druid, and we talked about spirituality, and I said I would make a candle, and this candle led that in the end she invited me to come to New York, and I played a concert in her synagogue. So this, to me, that's the magic that I love, But I mean, she was the most special person. Her name is Sharon Kleinbaum.
Oh,
Yeah.
wonderful. I'm just wondering, because I was going to ask you to play the harp, and I wonder, would you play maybe now, just because you're talking about
Okay.
concert tours and things? Would
Yeah.
you just play a short piece?
I will.
Everybody would like to hear this.
I would like to play a tune. It's funny, whenever I have friends that are very creative and finding tunes and everything, I always ask them what comes first, the melody or the tune, the words or the tune. And this song is about a goddess from my country. Her name is Holle. And whenever I sing it, I imagine I'm in the top of the mountains and I sing into the land down from the mountains. And I find she has a very strong connection to Bridget. She's also connected with the well. Wenn die Jahreszeit verändert sich, tust du es hier gleich. Du bist Hüterin der Seelen, schützen deine Hand und den Kreislauf des Lebens lebt du sein.
Wonderful, wonderful. People are saying this is beautiful music, beautiful. This is magical, wonderful.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Siggy.
Thank you.
Given the world we're living in right now, and we've had, I suppose, lots of things happening in recent years, what concerns you about the modern world?
What concerns me about that we all know that nature really is in dire distress, and still economy is more important than nature. there's lots of talk about it, of how we can save the world and everything. But in the end, it's yeah, it's not much is being done because it's not good for the economy. So that's something I don't like at all.
It's quite challenging. And now, when you talk about the economy, I don't know what is happening in Austria, but here in Ireland, the concerns around, if we have more restrictions, that the economy suffers more, and it is all serious. So there's that. At the moment in Ireland, it's public health versus economy, and then pre-COVID, it was the economy versus nature. There's it's quite a challenge, and there's a lot of pain around at the moment. It's like you're putting our jobs. So if we don't have a job, then our mental health suffers, therefore our physical health suffers. So we're living in I suppose, in a time of huge uncertainty, and we won't know until maybe a year or two time whether we dealt with this or not.
But
go on.
No, just you haven't finished yet.
No, you go on.
When it started, I was on the bus and everybody was already, we're going to shut down. And I was driving with a bus was driving through the woods, and I saw nature so strongly blossoming. And I said, no matter what happens, nature is around us, and that really gives us grounding. And I thought to myself, why are people so afraid of what the future will bring? Because we cannot change it at the moment. I think all our ancestors, no matter where we live, had to live as we're forced to live right now. And I think it's actually something very healing, that you try the best that you can do at the moment, and what will happen tomorrow, you'll see tomorrow. There is a saying, walk as far as you can see, and when you have arrived there, see where you can go further. Yeah,
I think,
but not to be afraid.
And I think it's absolutely this is around living right now in this moment. Rosemary Yates says, "Thank you both. You inspire the divine feminine in us all. Your strength, wisdom, and gentleness is what the world needs right now. You've helped me in the somewhat burnt but recovering forests of Australia. Blessings on your work, Siggy." And I think it's certainly living in this moment, that's all where we can, and tolerating uncertainty is, I think, it's a sign of, I suppose, psychological health, and that we need to be able to live with that, living with the unknown. And and yes, just to come back, you said something about nature. It's happening anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah. That's, to me, this was the most grounding. I don't know why it was in Ireland or in the other parts of the world, but I feel in my woods and in the plants that I have on my balconies, it was so much more than usual. I had really the feeling that nature was really, I don't know, just really embracing us with the abundance that it showed this year. It's a very special year.
Absolutely. And it's that other side of, we say, the pain and suffering, but then you look at this other window that we had. And particularly it was evident, with everybody sending messages at the beginning around how animals came and reclaimed land and all of that. And then I think people are getting tired. And now it's funny, it's like nature is changing, because it's heading into we're in the autumn now and heading into winter, and things get darker and everything goes to sleep. And the dark that can be quite challenging for people when we haven't got the light in the spring and the whole lot. Knowing that this life, death, and rebirth, that it's got to come around again. It always has. It's never stopped. What gives you hope about this world, this modern world?
All the people, I see a lot of hope. First thing is, I always say, there is a reason why hope was the one virtue that was left in Pandora's box. There's always hope. And I find in the darkest places, a little match is like a sunshine, So I feel at the moment there's so many people really standing up for nature. There's lots of initiatives. There's lots of people that really say you can't do it like this. I think I see a lot of hope, really, because of the many people and the many initiatives that are spreading and actually voicing. not just the young ones, but just warriors of nature. But
Somebody says here, I'm just going to put this up. Having lived many years with a life-threatening illness, I've learned to treasure every moment and live each day in a way that would allow me to go in peace when the time comes. It makes life amazing. I so get that.
I agree. I totally agree. There is one more thing. I think this is a chance also to find, not to just say what we cannot do, but what can we do and what are we thankful for. Like for me personally, I was not able to be in the choir for the last 20 years because as a tour guide, I have irregular times of work. And to say suddenly I have a chance to do something I really love doing, and I'm really thankful for it. So I think to really treasure to be more thankful for the things we have and that we took for granted, makes life really special, to really live in the moment and take it.
It's good to have hope. And if we always there's something around needing concern to walk alongside hope, so that you don't become complacent. And for so long we have been complacent that with the huge technological advances that allow us, we're having a chat and we're discussing something and I don't know, so I just pick up my phone and I Google and I find, oh, here's some information. You've a nice necklace, where did you get that? I got it online. Oh, I can order that online, and everything is quick and fast, and we can control everything. And becoming that we're in control, amplifying that notion that we're in control of the world. And now with the recent events, and it's not just COVID, but prior to that, we're waking up that we have concerns alongside hope, because we need to be optimistic as well as pessimistic, so that as awake and keeps us an eye on what hopefully it does on our behavior and what we're doing, and then optimism helps us go forward rather than falling into a pit of despair. So it's that balance. Why and when would you fight back?
You can fight in many ways, with words or deeds. I would want to fight back for anybody who cannot defend himself. Yeah, I had a dream. And in that dream, a group was threatened, and I had to say the words, and I was afraid of doing it, of voicing something, and then I did, and I just realized this is what I have to do. And I remember it was just a small thing, but somebody was shouting at somebody at the tram station because she was a foreigner, and then I said, she did what everybody would have done, opening the door for a friend. And because I said something, another woman said something, and the third person said something, and that person left, So sometimes it's just small things, but if one voices, then there's more voices. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's really important when people act in time.
Yeah.
That maybe you avoid a lot of other nastiness, so that you don't actually have to physical fight, I suppose. Would you describe yourself as a pacifist?
No. I would. It's a funny thing. Like, I love harmony. I love peace. But I was also 13. I live in a small country, but I was third in judo in the whole of my country. There weren't many saber fighters, but I was saber fencing, and I was the best in my country. So I really have a warrior side too, and I have learned to defend. I want to. It's actually in my name, Sigrid Gerda. Gerda means the one who protects with the spear. Yeah, and I always felt it's the protectress. So to me, I would love to be, and if I can.
So repeat that again. So you're
Ger, G-R, Ger means the spear, and that it literally means the one who protects with the spear, which means the protectress. So I find being a pacifist, I would love to be a pacifist, but I think there's also times to defend. You have to if you feel there's something that needs defending, then you have to be ready for it. And yeah, just because I have this connection with history, I just know the Romans said the person that remains quiet agrees. And I just don't want to be a quiet person. I want to be one that has a voice, you know?
Yeah. It's like that. It's been attributed to many people: for evil to prevail, it takes for good people to do nothing.
Exactly.
So often people's complacency, well, I'm okay, so this has nothing to do with me. It's not my fight.
Yeah.
I like the notion of that you will defend, which is completely different to attack.
Yeah.
And I think, and you're talking about the defense of others, like you did in that tram, that you were speaking out. And then if you're the first person to speak out, that gives somebody else the courage to speak out. And
it just showed me. It taught me that I did it like spontaneously, but it really taught me. Obviously, it changes. If not, it didn't have at that time. It was me, but if anybody stands up and says something, that's really. It was amazing to see the change.
Yeah, and the power of that one person can change, and then somebody else, and so on and so forth. And I know, for example, bullying that goes on in schools and things like that. And, in terms of how you manage that, and it's that kind of thing. It's like there's the bully and the bullied, and the bully might have two cohorts with them, and the rest are bystanders, afraid to say anything. And it assumes that the rest are supporting the bully. But if one of the other says something, and this is part of helping children manage bullying in school, is that you could be the one person to say, actually, that's not nice, and then somebody else agree, and so on. The bully walks away, just like in example. Wonderful. What's your favorite season?
Definitely autumn. I love first because I'm born. I'm Libra. I'm a Libra, so it's my birth month. I love the autumn. I love the smell of autumn. I love the changing of the colors, and I feel nature is coming once, like really, really alive before it goes deeper into the soil. I feel at home. It's my favorite nature, and even to just, we forget to be children. I think we all have an inner child within us. I love to go to the woods and just, go into the leaves and make this noise, because who stops us from doing what we've loved to do as a child? And that's it. Just things like that. I love nature, and in autumn time the best.
It's not time yet for the leaves to fall on the ground, but I know that I can hear that sound in my head right now of that rustle. It's an absolutely wonderful. It's one place where you don't have to be tidy and neat. Not that I am tidy. Anyway. When was the first time you fell in love?
I was 13, and it was at the Sabre.
Or 13.
13.
Okay, yes. Go on.
And it was a Sabre, like a fencing weekend. Yeah. So 13.
And?
Well, he didn't live in Vienna, but it was my first experience. Yeah.
Okay. If you met a frog, would you and he asked for a kiss, would you kiss him?
Depends on what the inner voice tells me. Like maybe yes, maybe no.
Well, your inner voice is very what would you say? Very active, isn't it? And it's one that you really, really you trust. So yeah.
Well, if it tells, I have learned my lesson, because I have gone against my inner voice and it turned out really, really bad. And if it comes 3 times with do this, I do it. I don't question it, So, but whenever I did something against my inner voice, it usually didn't turn out well. So
that too has been my experience. I spent a lot of my earlier life not listening to it, and living to regret it. Anyway, so I'm seeing I'm going to run out of battery. So this is really bad. What is your favorite festival of the Wheel of the Year?
I had to smile when Peter talked, because it's the same for me. It's Imbolc and Samhain. It always used to be Imbolc, and I felt very uncomfortable with like November. It was like all gray and everything. But since I became a druid, Samhain, I love everything about Samhain. So Imbolc and Samhain are my favorites.
Oh, wonderful. I'm running out of battery that's going to cut off. I don't know why this didn't happen before, but it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you, Siggy. People are just blown away by, I should listen more to my inner voice. Don't always recognize it's my inner voice. That's from Jacqueline.
Yeah.
All things of a sense of peace, right? That's from David Jones. Absolutely. I think I like all of them, but yes. So I want to thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you.
It has just been, well, and thank you for all the wonderful comments from people. Debbie Warville says, Siggy, you need to write a book. Now, there's something. So that's something maybe you need to pay attention to. Anyway, lovely talking to you again. And I look forward to seeing you all next week for another Fireside Chat with another mystery guest, another member of the Order. So before I crash, I am going to say, Siggy, you stay on the line. I'm going to say goodnight to you all. And many thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Go forward.